Hey guys, how are we doing? And welcome to my second podcast episode. Insightful sessions we've gone for as the title for the podcast. Welcome to Antony Welfare, who is founder of CBRC and co-founder and CEO, I think, of EnterGoDigital, which are two projects that he's working on. I'm going to let him discuss them. He's also ex-Ripple, which is where you may have seen him from before. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Antony, just to give us a bit of a background about yourself and what you're doing now in this space.
Yeah, brilliant. And congratulations on podcast 2, so so it's good. And, I like the theme in terms of insightful and actually real information about blockchain, because I think that's what's needed around this technology. So hi, everyone. Antony Welfare. So I've been around the blockchain world and specifically enterprise blockchain since around about 2016. I started with Oracle, where I was looking after their Oracle blockchain service, basically launching track and trace, lot lineage, and some supply chain sort of solutions around that. Got bored with using Hyperledger Fabric because it's not the most flexible. So I moved to DXC Technology. DXC's global technology giant, where I led the global blockchain practice and did around 50 projects with enterprise companies, from car companies to governments to everyone. And that was mainly using Hyperledger Fabric again, which is back in those days was the main one, but also Ethereum and Corda, a lot around Corda. I also was one of the founder members of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, where I started looking at the supply chain sort of world. I didn't do that for too long because I had a day job, and Enterprise Ethereum Alliance back then was still sort of new and finding its feet. So moved on, but still, Ethereum is sort of why I'm here. My previous career is retail, supply chain. I spent 20 odd years in retail, working with some of the biggest companies, retailers in the world, and was sat there, sort of in 2016 going, what's this Bitcoin thing that everyone talks about? And what's this Ethereum thing that's appearing, and all this weird stuff that you do when you get into blockchain, and you go, no, it's not real, keep it away. And I always say to people, and I've said this since day one, it'll take you 3 months to go through it's real, it's not, it's real, it's not. And eventually you either go, yeah, this is amazing technology, or you bury your head in the sand and wait for it to come back around. But eventually you go, it's amazing technology, as most of the big powerhouses out there are starting to admit and talk about. And I think the main thing there was retailers do lots of things that are many different parties. So they've got millions of suppliers, they've got millions of customers, they've got millions of products, they've got all, like, it's a mess. There's so much, and their systems are immense and complex and painful and highly expensive. If the likes of Sainsbury's in the UK and Walmart in the US, they're spending billions on their technology, like billions. It's off the scale. And you sit there and you go, all of this technology is centralized. There's one point of failure, be it an Oracle system, an SAP system, a Salesforce system, whatever. It's normally obviously the big tech ultimately behind it. And it's sharing data. That's all retailers do. You go and buy something, I'm selling it, it's a transaction. You go and sell it to someone else, you got loyalty points, it's all a transaction. And all of a sudden you go, blockchain fixes all this. This is the whole point of blockchain. It's about sharing data in a trusted way. And so that's where I went, wow, let's use blockchain for everything in retail. And I remember doing conferences for Oracle back in 2017 talking about this, and I've still got the decks to this day where I say there's I think it was 32 use cases of blockchain technology for retailers. And I remember I was on a conference in London, an FT conference, and I was on before the MD of Amazon at the time. And I talked about how blockchain technology can get rid of Amazon. That was my sort of pitch. And then for Oracle. And then the guy comes at the MD from Amazon, and he straight away says, thank you for Antony for trying to tell us how we're going to go out of business, which was quite amusing at the time. but is one of the two reasons why we're struggling at the moment with adoption, and I'll come on to that in a second. After DXC technology, so I did around nearly 2 years, sort of 50-odd projects. I wanted to get back into blockchain, and like more the crazy crypto side of it, the real side of it, actually dealing with a layer one. So I joined NEM sort of protocol. NEM's from 2017, similar to Ethereum, massive in Japan. It took off in Japan. So Ethereum, did very well in the world, and Japan was very much NEM, and it's very similar. But we launched back in I think it was mid-2020, we launched Symbol platform, which was a layer one, a hybrid layer one though. So it's for public and private. So it's for enterprise and private, sort of a public and private world, or permissioned, non-permissioned, whatever you want to call it. But it was trying to bridge this gap between blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain type world is all completely decentralized and there's no control. And then something like Hyperledger is more or less just as centralized as the current world. So what's the point? You need to move, and enterprise and government's where the money is, and they wanted private. But actually, the whole premise of blockchain is decentralization. And if you build a hybrid blockchain, maybe you can bridge the two. And it was easier in concept than we thought. I mean, it took a year or so to launch it, but we launched with $1 billion valuation. Unfortunately, and I was working with central banks then and starting to bring those to the platform. Unfortunately, the core developers didn't want to do business, which was very strange because they employed us all to build business. I still find this fascinating in crypto world. It's like, isn't business the point of what we're trying to do? But sometimes it's not. So I left there, and because I was working with central banks, I knew James Wallace, who looks after central banks at Ripple, and he was like, come and work with us for a bit. And I was like, I don't know whether I want to go and work with another layer one, because it's difficult. There's enterprise and there's layer ones, sort of crypto, and they're not the same. They're not the same people. They're not the same standards. They're not the same processes. But Ripple is a bit more in the middle, with XRP Ledger and Ripple being a company. So I said, let's give it a go. We'll see how it goes. I just moved to Portugal, and I was thinking of just going to the beach instead, but didn't work out, unfortunately. James made me work. So with Ripple was interesting because, as I said, it's got XRP Ledger, which is decentralized. They don't own it. They're a big user of it, but it's really useful for fast, cheap transactions. That is the whole point of it. So you look at Bitcoin, you look at Ethereum, you look at whatever else. XRP Ledger was written by some of the main coders and founders, in essence, of Bitcoin to do this. And it went, well, Bitcoin's not very good at payments, hence why Bitcoin has Lightning now. XRP said, let's do that straight away. So obviously back, 12 years ago, whatever it is now. And really with working with central banks and sort of commercial banks, so where all our money is, our fiat money, has been really interesting. So I finished about 2 or 3 months ago with Ripple, did 3 years, amazing discussions with central banks, probably engaged with well over 20 central banks. Lots of announcements were made of what we did with CBDCs, but also stable coins were always there. And what is the difference between a CBDC and a stable coin? Put your hand up if you know, because most people don't know. And it's interesting, it's where it's backed. So it's very simple. A central bank backed a CBDC, and the rest of it, which is like 95% of the dollars, pounds, euros, whatever you've got in your pocket, is actually commercial bank money. And I think most people miss this. Actually, a CBDC is only this much of your wallet. So actually, if you go and open any of your apps for your bank, Santander, JP Morgan, that is not central bank money. That is commercial bank money, and it's run and owned by, and I make that very clearly, it's not owned by you, just to be very clear, it is owned by the bank. So JP Morgan, Santander, Bank of America, whoever. And I think most people miss this distinction. So CBDCs is only this much, whereas the rest of it is that much. So if you think, if you're running a business, CBDCs is a great place to start, but actually the real money is in commercial banks. And the alternative to commercial banks, which is stablecoins, in my personal view. And be it stablecoins, tokenized deposits, and all these weird and wonderful names for it, but a digital version of the dollar, pound, euro, yuan, etc. That is then getting nearer to blockchain reality, and then you can move it. And also, maybe with a stablecoin, you may own it. Now, different discussions around that and how it works, but definitely today, the pound, the euro in your wallet, you don't own. The bank owns it. If you live in Europe, they can take that out of your bank today. Just a reminder of if things don't go very well over the next few years, and there is some sort of crisis, which I know you talk about, that there probably, maybe could be, it's definitely more likely than not. Is it going to happen? I don't know. It's nobody knows. But if it does, and the commercial banks are hit hard, and the government decides that it needs, your money, they can just go, oh, actually, HSBC, I can just close his wallet, like literally, and you go onto your bank and it says zero. And by law, I think it's 30% they're allowed to take by law. But whatever, they can do that. So there's a lot of point to stable coins if you have the ownership and they're in your wallet. So again, there's lots around self-sovereign identity and all owning your wallets and not your keys, not your crypto type thing. So it'll be really interesting to see where the stablecoin world goes. I think, for me, that's where we're sort of starting to look at working on, in terms of the adoption of it. So we're not issuing stablecoins, no interest in any of that. There's enough people that do that, big companies. Obviously, Ripple's going to be doing it. Circle does very well. Tether has been around for a while. So, all of that is growing. And if you look on a daily basis, now today it's all used for crypto in a way, really. Let's be realistic. I'm sure you've probably got some Tether or USDC at the moment. If you're not in the crypto, if you think it's going down, you move your money to USD, whatever, CA, whatever. And then if not, you put it back in Bitcoin or the meme coins, etc. And so that's a great use case, but hey, not everybody is crypto. There's only 5%, if that, of the world that actually is. So isn't it better if you can use your digital currency, your stablecoin, to buy things and sell things and pay instantly around the world and the rest of it? Which is, again, if you go back to Bitcoin, that was the point of it. That's sort of why it's there. So I think, based on those, that experience over the last, sort of, is it 8 years or whatever? Yeah, it's 8 years now. We've sort of got two different entities now which we're working with. And the first one is Commercializing Blockchain Research Center. So I wrote the book Commercializing Blockchain with 14 other people back in 2020 into 21. And that was all about the real use of blockchain. And the reason I did that is I was sat at, round the table for corporate meetings, when I was at DXC and Oracle, and half the people had no idea what blockchain, Bitcoin or anything. So half the people had no idea what was going on. Probably about 70% of the people that did know thought that it was about Bitcoin and it's a fraud. And then there was about 3 or 4 people that went, oh, is this about blockchain? What actually is blockchain? And so I was educating, and I was in business. I'm trying to sell things. I'm not supposed to be educating. It's a big part of business. So I wrote the book, and unfortunately with COVID, we didn't get very far. We did a big launch at Caesars Palace in Vegas, which was probably the best thing. And then actually went to the Senate. So we actually, had an evening at the Senate where we were talking to senators about it. And then unfortunately COVID came in. So I was sat there going, look, we've got all this. People still are asking what is blockchain. And a lot of use cases are in there. So some of them, if you're new to blockchain, they'll be amazing. They'll be really interesting. If you've been around blockchain, they're quite old. They're sort of old project. So what we do with CBRC is basically bring it back to life and say, let's put this online. Let's write, research use cases of real blockchain usage, and then let's score them. So we have something called the CBRC Score, which scores the blockchain project for blockchain applicability, not for good or bad projects. And that's really important. So it doesn't mean this is good or bad. It means it's very useful with blockchain. And then we verify that. So we issue a certificate, which is issued on XRP Ledger. So there's an immutable copy that your project scores, 95, 80, whatever it be, for blockchain applicability, not for good or bad. The great thing with that is that over the last 12 months, I've been talking to academia and lots of different people. And now I'm working with a university, which we'll announce sort of in 2025, where they're basically putting together the CBRC Score, the verification, and the process of the CBRC scoring panel. So it's going to be a number of other people around the world, because at the moment it's a very small team around me. So it naturally brings bias of where I've worked, who I know, etc., geographies, etc. So it's great, because we're going to open it up to the world. So we're going to have people in Japan, America, Africa, South, everywhere doing the scoring, and then we'll be able to then issue more certificates and score more projects. And the idea, and it's non-profit now, so basically all of this will be available free. So if you're sat there thinking, I want to do something with blockchain with track and trace, you can type in track and trace or click on track and trace, and it'll come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 projects of real people doing this. And then there's a video of them, talking about how it works, and links, you can find out more. So it's the one place, is the Register of Blockchain Projects, which is real. So that's CBRC, and there's going to be some really cool stuff happening in 2025 with that. So, and it's all being done through academia and universities, which was not my plan, but it's absolutely the right way to go, because it means it'd be non-profit and properly verified, and the data center is doing some really cool stuff with how to use AI as well on this. And then the other part of what we've sort of built is EnterGoDigital. So we're a digital asset solutions company, which is basically focusing on how to use blockchain again. So we've got 2 platforms at the moment. We only launched sort of a few weeks ago. And what it is, using those platforms, we help the companies use the platforms, and then people adopt them. So this is not about sort of all these things you may or may not do. This is a platform you can use. You can not download it, but you can talk to us and start to use it, immediately. The first one, which is built on XRP Ledger, is Be My Digital. So Be My.digital. And that's basically NFT collectibles platform, which has been built to sort of for scale for enterprise and for users. So it's still sort of work in progress. The website's been updated, I think, this week, so the next 2 weeks or so. So at the moment, it's still quite not enough information. But what we're doing is we've built this process around trusted curation, which is all about making a collection and making things trusted for the people and easier to use. Be you creator, so maybe you've got an experience you're trying to sell. So one of the projects we've got live was, I think it's actually finished now, but it's called Disco Coin. so it's basically a band in Norway that basically wanted to engage with fans better. So they issued an NFT, a digital, coin. You buy that, I think it was 15 euros, something like that. But you get then discounts in their store and discounts for the concerts and where they're doing things. And also you become part of their engagement club as such. And then the next stage of what they're looking to do is then engage with fans better. Because then there's an NFT proving that you're a member, that you've done this and that X, Y, and Z. So it's really good for IP that's, creative IP like that. Another one we've got is with launching a coin, so a physical coin, and that's backed by a physical mint. And the coin is actually, the digital coin is AI sort of developed. So it's quite cool. There's loads of different designs and weird and wonderful sort of AI brought into it. And basically what we're doing with this platform is saying, look, we've got it, you can onboard, offboard, you can do your, we can make any collections you want to do, you can pay in crypto, you can pay in fiat, etc. But it shows it's curation for your, business, what you need to do, and it's physical, digital, or experience digital. And I think things like the Fang coin, I think, is really interesting. We've got some projects coming up with art, which it's been around for a long, long time, NFTs and art, but proving the art. It's less about proving the art, that sort of old NFT world. This is more about engaging with the artwork and engaging with the artists. So these are more about experiences and, you know, understanding the artist more and what they tried to do. And finally, the project that's coming out sort of soon, or sort of next year, early next year, is with a church sort of, they're trying to become more digital. So one of the religions, and they've got some ways that they wanted to use collectibles and NFTs instead of things that you would do physically in church and stuff, which is actually quite cool. It's if you think about it, whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. It's about, that's been done for hundreds of years. These sorts of, you know, psalms and talking and scripts and things. Actually, why are we not digitizing them and giving them as gifts and things like that? So it's a really cool project, very different projects, but it's the same tech. It's using XRP Ledger, it's transferring its digital assets. So that's really cool. So that's launched and out there. And then finally, the one that's really interesting, the reason I was talking about sort of stable coins and things is it's called Impact Coin. And it's still very new. We're not sharing much information at the moment, but Impact Coin is about the use of a stable coin, a digital currency within a community, and building better behaviors, communications, etc. So it's building around the UN sustainability criteria and things like that, whereby if you go and help in your community. So I live near the sea in Portugal, and obviously there's loads of rubbish on the beaches because the world is a mess in terms of, in many ways, but also physically. You can pop down every so often, I think it's once a month or every 6 months, and you can go and offer your time and go and pick up the rubbish. And that's it. And you do it because you're a good person or because you want to walk around the beach and chat. But actually, with this coin, we can actually incentivize people and say, you know, well, you've been down to the beach, you spent your Saturday there, here's 100, you know, of these coins. You can then go and buy a coffee, for example, or pay your taxes or pay your parking fine, which is always useful. So it's within a community, within a closed loop, but using a digital currency in essence and backing it with a stable coin rather than fiat. Because again, the whole point of a digital coin is, you know, be it a, you know, collectible coin, be it an impact coin, be it you know, USDC, USDT, is it's digital, and it means it transfers easy, and the ownership is from A to B, it's wallet to wallet. We don't need the banks, we don't need these intermediaries. And then bringing it together with a loyalty scheme is very interesting. It's a lot more complex than we thought. So the project starts later this year, but won't be launched till well near the end of next year. It's sort of a 12-month project, that one, because of many reasons, including regulatory and legal issues. And I think those are the, you know, I mentioned before, there's two reasons why adoption of blockchain is slow. And I think the first one, you know, is around education. People still not educating themselves. And I think the second one, as we well know, if you're part of the XRP community, something called regulation. And I haven't heard SEC, is it, or something? I don't know. Heard of them every so often. You know what I mean? It's the whole regulation world is painful, and it's, you know, step back from XRP and SEC. Regulators tend to be traditional older people. I've been working with central banks in, you know, 20, 30 different countries. So I can tell you firsthand from governments and central banks, the majority are, you know, older generations, very adept at what they do and have done it for a long time. Digital currencies and, you know, blockchain has been around, you know, 12 years, whatever it be now. So it's blatantly obvious there's a mismatch, and innovation and regulation is always, you know, innovation's here, regulation's here, and then eventually it catches up and then innovation carries on. And it doesn't matter blockchain or anything. And AI is in that sort of chase now, where regulation is light years behind, like so far behind, it's not even started yet. And yet, you know, AI is now part of our lives and using our data, and we don't know what it's doing and things. So I think the whole regulation world and the old world, or the existing, let's call it the existing world, is what we're fighting against. But I think with more real use of blockchain, and that's all I care about. I don't care about any fancy pretend stuff and any future maybe. What can you use it for today and how can you use it is really important. So I think that I'm not sure that was an introduction or a whole presentation.
Well, I'm a bit blown away, to be honest. There's a lot to unpick there, and I really like the idea. I think it was called the impact coin. I had a similar thought about something like that. I was thinking of calling it culture token, just for
Yeah.
like rewarding culture, basically. Because
Yeah.
as you said, and before we got on this call, we talked about how maybe some suggestion that the space is like quite transactional now in one way or another, and people are looking to extract value from different places and getting away from what blockchain actually could be and should be for the world going forward. So
Yeah.
I don't really know where to start from all that, but let's go for where do you see CBRC heading in the next year to a few years' time? I'd like to know a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think this. I always say this year, but it's 2025 now. I always work far too advanced in the future. It's like, so 2025 is all about automating the process and getting this scoring mechanism, it's a good scoring mechanism for a few people to do, but it's very intense and it's biased to exactly my network. So the university is basically going, right, forget, we take what you've got, forget about anything to do with you. This is about blockchain across the world and how it's being adopted and where it is. So I think, the first few months of next year will be about getting the scoring process working and then starting to recruit this panel of people who will then bring it all together. Fast forward, let's say the end of next year, when there's a panel doing the scoring verifications there, then I see a more automated process where anybody can submit their projects. It goes through checks and balances, and then if it's good enough, it'll be verified and scored. That then means, as I said, that anyone watching this can go, I want to know whether this project's real. I want to know how to use, it even shows you which blockchain to use. So what do people using Ethereum for? What do people using XRP Ledger? So it becomes this sort of go-to, register of blockchain information for real world use cases. And that's what people that I've spoken to, both academia and a lot of layer ones I've spoken to, they're like, wow, this is brilliant. If this is open source and we can see how it works and how the scoring works, etc., this is brilliant because it's like, oh wow, Cardano, there's 10 projects on Cardano of digital currencies. It's like, I didn't know that. Wow. And it just helps you go, what is blockchain? Oh, I don't know what it is. And you go, no, you are, you're in Dubai. So, real estate records are on blockchain. So it's like, most people don't know that still to this day, which amazes me because I thought that was like big news. But anyway, the car registration in California, they're on, can't remember the network, but they're all on blockchain as well. That then means as a human, you're going, oh, this is real. If I'm buying a property or if I'm registering my car, it's real. And then you go, oh, so for me, living in Portugal, for example, or living in the UK or whatever, you can go, this is how to use it. And that's what we're trying to do. And then if we have people around the world, they'll bring their local expertise and their local information. And I think in a year's time, it's going to be very interesting to analyze the information of which countries are doing what. So in Brazil, wow, there's loads of projects doing, loyalty programs on blockchain, or, in Japan, there's loads of digital currency projects and things. And I think that's really powerful for getting past the crap that is, this blockchain project real? Is it a scam, etc. And I think that's the biggest issue that we have in this industry: scams and BS. There's everywhere. So that's what we're trying to crack through, and everything that we publish, everything that we score, will be verified. So if you look on the website now, it's early stage, so it's still in beta in essence. I think there's 100 and something use cases that have been researched, but only about, I think it's 8 or 10 that have been verified and scored. So that's the process we're trying to automate, because it takes a lot of time to actually verify and score something. Because I need to be able to say to you, go to these verified and score ones are real. I can tell you, even if I personally don't know, the team and the process will be able to prove it to you. So you can unequivocally say, these are real projects.
Yeah, so they've got, like, as you say, the stamp of certification, which they literally have. How did you like develop that like scoring process? So what does that encompass? Because as you said, it's quite like a complicated process, and I can imagine that to get that to be a quantitative like task rather than being like subjective or something you like. How did you like devise that scoring process for each project?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because that's painful. How did you do it? A lot of pain and still more to go, I've got to say. So, I mean, originally, and to be honest, if you read the book, you'll be able to work out probably the metrics that we use. So it's based on, doing this for 8 years. And, there's a number of things that blockchains, are good and bad at. So where's the information stored? Central or in lots of cases? How many parties are involved? 1 or 5,000. And so if you think of scales like that, the questions are a bit deeper. But in essence, if you think of that, the scoring, it is always yes. If you've got 5,000 parties, you definitely need blockchain. If there's just you, forget it. Use the database. You don't need it. So it's that type of thinking around security, scalability, all those areas. And then we did a scoring of 1 to 10 for each of them. And then, 10 being most applicable to blockchain. Again, it's not about good and bad. And then the higher the score is obviously more, this is a real blockchain project that really needs blockchain. How we get to the quantitative side is what the university is doing now. So there's about 5 people. I met 4 people last week who are basically going through this process now, and they're starting to bring the data integrity and analysis. And I assume in the next 2 or 3 months they'll change some of them, to sort of make it very clear. One, so that any expert can verify and approve this, and 2, so that we can then share the integrity around the process. So I think we're halfway there. Talk to me in 6 months' time, and I'll tell you the answer for the rest.
Yeah, okay, excellent. And this is going to be a little bit off topic, I guess, from what we've just talked about, but it's just popped into my head. I think it's an important question, being as we're here talking about like what blockchain should be used for. If you could take away the regulatory aspect of it and the slow moving aspect of it, like where do you think is the most important aspect now that blockchain could step in for? You said retail in terms of like data collection areas, but what would you think would be like the forward leader in blockchain right now if there was like no regulatory compliance?
So I think it's the most fundamental part of our lives, seeing as we're digital, electronic, is data. So anything to do with data. So the reason why I joined Oracle was not random. I didn't go, let's go into blockchain, let's give up my very well-paid career in retail and go and join a company, an Oracle, just for a laugh. Oracle is the biggest database company in the world, like off the scale. They own and run the databases for the FBI, the CIA, you name it. They've got these steel cages, they call them. They're not physically steel, where they like the data stuff in that company is off the scale. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. They do a lot of the back end type stuff for the Googles and Amazons of the world and things, and maybe not Amazons as much, but Google definitely. So so always the competitor. But data is everything to us, right? Everything we do is data. You're talking about data every day, right? Either data points of figures or somebody's story, somebody's news. All of that, every single piece of data should be on blockchain and immutably verified of where it came from, how it got there, type thing. If we have that everywhere, fake news is give or take a thing of the past. If AI uses the data that's blockchained, I always used to say blockchained, which is not a word, but I like it. If all the data is blockchain that AI uses, you know where it's from. You can reference it. And so, it's as simple as Will said this at 7 p.m. on this day, right? That could be it, right? And so I can go, right, well, I'm going to speak to him and say, did you say this? And you go, no, that's some AI bullshit. It's like, so I think data is the most fundamental part. And so to answer your question, everything and everyone is sort of every company should be doing it. And I think the other side of it then, and the reason why I then went from Oracle into, NEM, but also into the digital currency bit, is everything needs to be paid for. Everything we do, right? You've got to pay for your coffee, your rent, your car. You've got to pay for some hosting now for this or whatever, we've got to pay for everything. So if I get blockchain technology into transactions and money, then I've fixed the data problem in a way. Yeah. So then everything automatically goes that way. So when I was doing it from the Oracle's perspective, it's like, how can we get, the supply chain on blockchain? It's like, it's really expensive and it's going to cost a lot of time and money for them. Hang on, they pay money every day to suppliers. Well, how about in that transaction, you share a bit more information and things, and you make the transaction digital. And so the money process, the transaction, the payment process is where you can go, we can get to that. So hence, data is the most important, but to get to it is through money and then through stable coins. And, there's then a discussion about privacy and the rest of it, but that's a different part of it. From pure technology, that's where I think it should get to.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with that as well. And like, probably got into the space for the same sort of reason, because of the transactional side of it. It's why I first started to learn about Bitcoin, which took me to the XRP ledger. But on a quite a zoomed out basis, I guess currency is just verified data anyway. So it kind of encompasses all of that. So that's extremely interesting. So what are you most excited about in terms of you mentioned, I think, 4 projects that you're currently working on. Did you say? And obviously Impact Coin, I like the idea of that. But what are you most excited about, and how do you think that's going to change things going forward?
I think, so the whole sort of, you've got CBRC and then EnterGoDigital. What we're focusing on, and the team that I'm working with, that I've got together, is people who do real stuff. So I'm fed up of the BS that's around, where people don't do things and don't understand real things. So every project we're doing is a real project, doing real things for real people. Very few we're going to do POCs and any of that. So I think in general, both CBRC using the information that's got that's real. So we know these are people who are doing this type of projects. We know it's really good, blockchain's really good for ABC. And then actually building these solutions, because obviously the technology still needs to improve. So we're good, but we still need to get better, and especially around privacy and data sharing. So I think that's key. But I think, you picked up the Impact Coin one is like 100% like my favorite. I shouldn't have favorites like kids, but just don't say it, tell anyone. Because we found a way, we think we found a way, we're going to test it out next year, to bring together behaviors, people wanting to do things, so rewarding behaviors, paying for behaviors, sharing money, sharing experiences, with transactions and money, because at the end of the day, that does, we all have to pay and do money. So I think that bringing this together, and the model as well for a city or a country is actually funded. So they don't have to pay for this. It's funded by the loyalty from the vendors who get more business, and then they post it through. So it's a financially sustainable model as well, which is very unusual. Normally somebody has to pay for something somewhere. And yes, the end vendor, the coffee shop or the retailer or the event place, they're paying, but they would have been given loyalty anyway. It's just it's going back into the system, and it means that you get, some loyalty points for actually going to help your community. Say you help your neighbor out, if you think during COVID, there was lots of old people who couldn't go and get food and all that. And it was, I remember I was in London and I used to go shopping, and I'd get shopping for like 3 other people for, and they'd outside the doors and things. It was, it was hard work. And, I was paying it, it was a few pounds, so it didn't cost. But actually, if there was a community token and a community thing, we could go, actually, let's put this together, and then we can pay for the food for these 5 old people that can't get out for different reasons. So trying to bring human into this and using blockchain and technology for human benefit is really important. And I think that's why the Impact Coin project is the most exciting. But the other ones, again, just being real are brilliant, because it's solving a problem, it's helping things happen.
No, yeah, I remember the same sort of experience in COVID as well. I think I got an app in the end where I had to go and like check on people like certain times, and I can
Yeah.
definitely see that there's like a way for us to incentivize each other to start doing good things again. That's something that I've been really passionate about in life. It's one thing that I try and talk about a lot on here, like on X and YouTube, is like trying to bring humor, because I think we miss a lot of humor now. We've got way too serious. But I also think we've moved away from being like a community and more to extracting from each other, as I spoke about, and that's exaggerated by Web3 and meme coin specifically, in my opinion. Um, but in terms of like creating value within a community, that's also into the AI picture as well, because about bringing people back to being human again and getting away from, well, when AI comes, we might have, for example, universal basic income, and we're going to have to find new ways for purpose and new ways to move value around. And I actually love this idea that you've got here with impact, and I actually want to keep exploring that. I know there's a lot we could talk about. We've only got like 10 minutes left, so I want to just explore it a little bit further, this impact token with you. If you could jump 10 years in the future with impact, like what is it doing around the world? You talked about specific communities, but how large can this get? Like
Yeah.
why can it get to for you?
So I think so. Spot on. So we've pieced together a future where, in essence, everybody's using the impact coin back end. Let's call it. It'll be called a different coin. So the Dubai coin, the Portugal coin, the wherever you live, the London coin, etc. And because people need to feel it, but the back end of it will be the same. So say you've got the Dubai coin, and I've got the London coin, for example. And so within your community, you can buy your coffee shop. You go to your coffee, pay your bills, etc. And you go and do something good, and you get some more, and you get rewarded, etc. But what we're looking at is then connecting. So when you fly to London, you go, oh, London's got the impact coin back end as such, so therefore I can buy a coffee in London, or I could volunteer in London and get some benefits, etc. So bringing together different geographies is number one. And then we realized number two is there's a lot of loyalty programs and loyalty schemes out there that are multinational that actually could benefit from switching to this. So if you think in an airport, so when you start thinking international, airports are the best friend or the worst friend, whichever. I love and hate them equally every time. And in an airport, apart from Heathrow and a couple of others, most of them don't have any loyalty schemes or anything. And if you had a loyalty scheme within an airport, for the airport operator to get people to buy more, to spend more, etc., again, you could start giving the benefits and things. You can even then bring your air miles into it. And then instead of your air miles, paying for an upgrade or free flights, you can actually do that. So your air miles pay for, give to charity, or you use to buy your coffee again back in Dubai or London or whatever. So we're exploring how this technology can expand and grow, and the back end of it is all around, it's the stable coin. So it's around stable coins as such, and using those because it's digital. So then the whole point of blockchain is digital assets. You can move around, you can do things with them, whereas you can't in the existing system. And that's the key to this. So a loyalty program that's a digital asset based one, even if it's an ERC20 token or whatever type, it can back end into the payment side of it, which then can pay you and transfer, because you always need to transfer money somewhere. It's like, it doesn't matter what you try and do, money needs to move, whether it's loyalty or money, stablecoin or even fiat. And so we're working, in the trial that we're looking at doing, we'll have, you can use fiat, stablecoin and the impact coin as such, and move them between each other. But we'll make it more difficult to use the fiat because it's not good for the system. It doesn't fit with the system as such. You need the digital assets going around. So yeah, so I think, this could be, in 10 years' time, everyone can be starting to use this and transfer, and loyalty programs can all move to this type of technology. And also from their perspective, they're already giving loyalty program has already got the answer in because it's giving loyalty, but it's quicker and easier, more efficient. Number one, but number two, more importantly, the data you get and the because they don't have that much data. They have some data. Some are, obviously some are better than others. Retailers, for example, are very good normally. But it's bringing that all together. So whatever you're doing, you can be giving and taking when you're traveling, or then you can give to your family, your friends and stuff. So you can start to gift, tokens. And as we talked about, the old people that we were giving food to, we can give them tokens, for Christmas, presents or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's super exciting. And like, as I said, when I first got into crypto, and I still think this is the main use case for now, obviously, with data, arguably, as you said, like transfer of money. But then after that, as I started to learn more, definitely the idea around like community tokens, however that might be bracketed, I always thought was probably the next biggest thing when I started to learn more about AI and what I think is going to happen in the future in terms of like money and the way that we're going to go in terms of potentially continuing the trend of being like less human. So definitely a good way to bring us back together and more centralized using something decentralized. Like we're almost like going out like this as in terms of interaction. So maybe this is something that can incentivize interaction again. So I'm very excited about that. And we've only got a few minutes left, and I do like to finish with a couple of questions about, well, probably only have time for one, but like, what do you think it takes, Antony, to be a person like yourself, an entrepreneur? Like, if someone's starting up in their journey and they're looking up to where you are right now, like, what key lessons can you share with them, or pieces of advice could you give to somebody in that position?
Yeah, I think the first thing is an open mind. Like I've been in blockchain for a long time. I feel like a million years. It really does. But every day I'm like, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I didn't know it does this. So you have to just be a sponge for information. And it's actually hard work. It fries your brain at times. It's like, I can't take any more of these new things that are happening. So you have to have that appetite for new and for what's happening in the future, some of the stuff we were just talking about. And then you need to actually be able to process it. So I think a lot of people miss critical thinking, and I can't remember who said this to me, but somebody said they should teach critical thinking at schools, and I was like, oh my God, yes, that is fundamental. So you get the information in your head instead of just going, oh, that's good. You go, what does this mean? How does this balance with something else? What can I do about it? So, you need those sort of skills to do it. And I think then it's get in there, talk to people as well, like whether it's online or physically, because what happened, with CBRC and EnterGoDigital, I didn't sit there, last year and go, I'm going to set up this business and it's going to do that. There's no way. I was thinking I want to be getting the message out about real use of blockchain. I've got a book about it, but hey, it's old. It doesn't move. And so what can I do? And going through that process of CBRC and how we got to CBRC and the scoring mechanism and the verification, most of these sort of ideas end up coming to me at like 4 or 5 a.m. by the way. So I wake up, I have a pad by my bed or the phone. I'm not saying it's good sleep practice, but if you've got a brain that carries on, and you wake up and you go, oh my God, the scoring, I could add this one and this one. And so I write it down and then try and go back to sleep, or just get up if it's nearer to 5. But, having that sort of ideas, writing them down, understanding them, and roughly, I know where I'm trying to get to, but I'm not worried about piecing it together today because I'm going to maneuver. CBRC was classic. That was going to be a consultancy. I was going to do ABC. Now it's a non-profit. I'm working with the university and a wide network. 12 months ago, that was not in slightly. And so you need to then flex. And so, it's being open to opportunities. What did they say is where, planning meets opportunities. So I've planned that I know I want to do something around this. I know it's going to look like that. And then the opportunities come when somebody says to you, have you thought of that? Have you done it this way? Have you seen that? And you go, no, that's really, actually, if I piece A and B and C, And then finally, I think the biggest piece of, information for or advice for setting up your own business is don't set it up unless you need to. Like everybody wants to set up their own business and wants to do it, so they force it and go, I'm going to set up a company next week and I'm going to launch ABC. I think I've got 5 consultancies that I've, closed over the last, 20 years or so. This time, I was like, I'm going to find the right people who have the right ideas. And I'm going to flow, and then we're going to end up. And Enterprise Go Digital was, again, a year ago, zero concept of it. And that came through discussions from CBRC and then through with my partners, Superhow now. And they were sat there going, well, we're trying to do something like that. It's like, well, you're really good at tech, and I'm really good at understanding blockchain. It's like, well, when do we start bringing this together? And it naturally flowed through. So I think people try to go, I'm going to build this, I'm going to do that, and I've got this plan. And that's great, but it won't happen that way. So have the plan, but then move with the opportunities. And, there's no such thing as a lucky person at all. I do not believe in lucky planning, and planning meets opportunity. I think that's the most important part of it.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I always said that luck is something that happens to you, but there is not necessarily a direct correlation, but there is correlation with hard work. So I always, along those lines, thought you make your own luck to some extent, or to a lot of extent. Like you still need an aspect, you still need someone to push the luck over. But if you make a lot of opportunities to be lucky, you're more than likely going to be lucky at some point. So I am going to have to end this here, unfortunately. I feel like I could talk to you all day. Like I feel like I've just scratched the surface, and we're already at like an hour, and we're going to have to cut this off. But I'd love to have you on again. But just for everyone in the audience and who wants to know more about you, where can they find CBRC or yourself? I'll obviously put the links in the description to this video and tag you, but let them know, please.
Yeah, so for myself, it's Antony, as Crypto would say, Antony with the T, so it's Antony Welfare. So that's LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So just my name, no extra bits, no random H's or anything like that. CBRC on because Commercializing Blockchain Research Center is too long. On social media, it's TrustCBRC, so TrustCBRC. And the website is commercializingblockchain.com. We are going to change it up to TrustCBRC next year. And then Enterprise Go Digital is enterprisego.digital. And that's where you can see Be My Digital platform, and Impact Coin will be coming. I think there's 1 paragraph on it at the moment, but there'll be a lot more in the next few months. So I'm happy to come on, in a few months' time, and I can talk to you a lot more about Impact Coin and what we're doing there, because I think it's a very interesting future project.
Yeah, so do I. I'm very interested to hear more about that as well. And if you can give me more alpha on a personal level, I promise I won't share it. But anyway, thank you so much for giving me your time. It's been long overdue. We've actually been in contact for a few years, haven't we? And we just never managed to get around to doing it. And we have a mutual friend, which is random, from a very different life.
Time ago.
Yeah, from a different life. Yes.
I think that's probably going to be like 15 years ago.
Wow.
So something like that,
Yeah, I only met him about, I'm not going to name names or anything. I only met him about a few years ago. But how crazy is it when you have a connection like that? It just blows my mind. But anyway.
Small world. It's like you're in Dubai, I'm in Portugal, and he's in London.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Right, anyway, thank you so much for taking your time, Antony. And I can't wait to see what you've got coming with CBRC and Enterprise Go. And also Impact Coin. I'm most excited about that. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Thank you for being my second podcast guest. Peace up, A-Town down, as CryptoInsightUK would say.